All right. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It is Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022. That's a lot of twos, and it is episode 19 of the 9x9, the 81 square meters of the best volleyball content you're going to find on the internet. My name is Everett DeLorme, joined, as always, by my neighbor to the south, Mr. Rob St. Clair. And Rob, we're right in the thick of it. We're right in the heat of the moment. We've got Champions League going on, just finished up the quarterfinals, getting ready for the semifinals. We just wrapped up SuperLega. Men's regular season. We're getting ready for the playoffs. The Lega Volley Femminile is winding down. We have Challenge Cup, CEV Cup, Women's World Championship draws have been coming out. There's a lot of volleyball going on in the world, and we're going to talk about it today.
A lot going on, ladies and gentlemen. You are in the right place, catching up on everything from the week in the volleyball world, and there's a lot going on. It's championship season in the club game, and there's already some things to look forward to for the national team season, and we'll finish off the show with previewing the U Sports Championships, Canadian men's university volleyball getting wrapped up this weekend. I'm excited to break that down and get Everett to kind of school me on what to expect, because I know a little, but not very much. So let's start with what happened just this past weekend. The Italian men's playoffs, the SuperLega, the regular season is over. Asterisk, because there's one more match. There's one more like goofy regular season match on Wednesday. It's a makeup game. No, doesn't mean anything. Makeup game between Lube Civitanova and Milano means absolutely nothing for the standings and going into the playoffs. So what you see on your screen right here, that's it. That's the final standings. Cisterna takes the 8th spot in the playoffs, and Vivo Valencia is relegated. Verona, Toronto, and Padova are safe.
Any surprises for you, Rob? Looking at these final the final standings, any surprises from what we would have thought of at the beginning of the season?
At the beginning of the season, yeah, I think Milano at 5 is a pleasant surprise. I think I would have expected either Piacenza or Monza to be that first team outside the Elite Four, at least at the beginning of the year. But Milano had a great offseason, and it came together about midway through the year. They started really beating the teams that they're supposed to beat, and occasionally like hanging around and taking sets off the big dogs. So well-deserved 5th place for them. Cisterna kind of backed their way into a playoff spot, and I feel really happy for them doing this, because they were just ravaged by injuries this year. They obviously lose Arthur Schwartz, who we talked about. They lose Tobias Crick. They lose let's see, who else did they lose? Well, both their starting middles, like that right there, is for a lot of teams is a death sentence. And not only did they survive, they actually managed to make the playoffs. So now they have the privilege of getting destroyed by Perugia in the first round. But I'm happy for them to have done that. And then just the unpleasant surprise that is Vivo Valencia. I mean, we're definitely going to get to it, but I wouldn't have picked them to get relegated this year.
Yeah, no. I mean, on the Cisterna side of things, got to give a big shout out to the Aurora boy, Mr. Stephen Marr. 337 points on the season for Mr. Stephen Marr. He had 278 kills. He hit 45.1 kill percentage, 38% efficiency. Not bad for the old man. And just, you know what? He does it again. Just kind of put on a team, doesn't have much support. He puts the team on his back and he drags them, absolutely just drags them to the playoffs. So big shout out to Stephen Marr on that one. And I mean, hey, I think we have to talk about Vivo Valencia getting relegated, because everyone thought, me included, you included, that the roster that they had brought together with Douglas, with, Uncle Mo, Flavio, who had a fantastic season, ultimately led them in scoring, and Nishida was going to do something special, especially with what that roster did last year. But I think there was a few things. Obviously, Nishida's injury, a huge issue for them, right? Really knocked them down a bit. Douglas leaving, massive hole for them as well. But then ultimately, I just don't think, we've talked about it before, but I don't think this roster was put well together. I think they really left Nishida out to dry at many points. But ultimately, Now we're getting the rumors that Nishida's already heading back to Japan. 1 year was enough for him in Italy. Looks like he's going to be heading back to sign with the JTech Stingers. And it's too bad. I would have liked to see him maybe a second year, because this is kind of a bust season for him.
Yeah, it's not Nishida's fault that they got relegated. He was put in a position. Now he obviously got injured. That didn't help. He was out for 6 weeks or so. But the position he was put in was on a team that kind of needed him to be the leading scorer, and I don't think that's the type of player he is. At least he's not built to do that against this caliber of league and the blockers of the caliber of the rest of Italy. Like, he was never really put in a position to succeed. He's not. He's just not that player. His serving statistics on the year were outstanding. I think he led the league in aces per set. He was really, really good from the service line. That's not surprising at all. Blocking, complete liability, and attacking, like, middle of the pack at best amongst starting level opposites in the league. So
he was all right. I mean, we were ripping on him for his efficiency early on in the season, and he ended the season with a 41% efficiency and 47.3 hit percent. So doing all right in the
well, let me tell you that efficiency column in the Italian stats is not correct. They don't take into account times being blocked. So
okay, fair enough.
Don't use that number. But kill percentage, like 41%. No, I'm looking at the wrong player. 47% kills is decent, but he was blocked 55 times, 35 attacking errors. Yeah, 531
and only
kills.
12 blocks on the season. That's
12 blocks on the season is terrible. That is incredibly bad for your starting opposite. But I mean, that's not his game. We knew that. None of this is surprising to anybody who actually watches volleyball rather than just worshiping him because he resembles an anime character. He wasn't put in a position to really succeed on this Vivo Valencia team, and we've talked about it throughout the year. They did not do a good job from the first day of last year's offseason. They did not do a good job building this team. I mean, think about what they had last year. Thibaut Rossard, TJ DeFalco, Bartolomé Chinese. They let all three of those players walk. The only piece they keep is Davide Saita, who has a fair amount of the blame for this bad season himself, because for the first, at least a good half of the year, he just couldn't set anybody. And then Nishida gets hurt. That sucks. Douglas leaves. Honestly, that might have been addition by subtraction, because he just seemed like a personality cancer. He couldn't handle emotionally being outside of Brazil. Mauricio was pretty bad throughout the year. They bring in Gabriele Nelli, which made no sense. They bring in Christian Fromm. No sense.
Just weird moves.
All sorts of weird moves. They just didn't construct this team well from day one of last offseason, especially compared to how good they were last year, and they totally retool, and it totally flopped. And I want to give Flavio a ton of credit. The second leading scorer in the league amongst middles, 239 points for a middle, behind only Robert Landy Simone. 0.67 blocks per set, led the league, like 58 blocks totals, unbelievable. Sky high hitting percentage. He also by far their best player. By far.
He also led them in points. Oh no, wait, he didn't. That was still Nishida with 306. And I mean, it's funny, I'm looking at the numbers here right now, and we talk about Nishida's injury, but he only missed 4 matches. So not a terrible amount, but I mean, hey, looking at his numbers, he was second in aces per set, behind only Wilfredo Leon, and 4th overall in total aces with 43. So, he did have those 4 less matches. All the 3 players ahead of him, which is Linus Weber, Matias Patolo, and Mr. Wilfredo Leon, all had 24 of those. Now, Rob, looking at these first round matchups that we see, other than, like, is there going to be any surprises here, do you think, or is it going to be the top 4 moving on as expected?
Well, Perugia will beat Cisterna. They don't even need Matt Anderson to do so, and Matt Anderson right now back in the United States for the birth of his second child. So huge congratulations to Matt and his wife Jackie on that. Who knows when he'll head back overseas, but Perugia doesn't even need him to get past Cisterna. They can start Ole Plotnitsky and be just fine, so no issues there. They'll get past Cisterna, no problem. Monza versus Lube. Honestly, I'm so low on this Lube team right now after what we've seen from them lately that even with what seems to be a resurgent Osmani Juantorena at least being able to play, I wouldn't be surprised if Monza at least took a match. And by the way, these first couple series, like the quarterfinals is best out of 3 matches only. It's not best of 5s until I think the finals. I think they might be doing best of 3 in the semis as well. So only a 3-match series, best of 3-match series in the quarterfinals. So Perugia will probably go 2-0 versus Cisterna, no problem. But Lube versus Monza, I wouldn't be surprised if Monza won one of those. And they haven't played particularly well on their home floor this year, so that doesn't really matter to me. But I could see Grozer, Javaronek, and Daviskiba getting super hot for a game, and Lube just playing old and lazy and slow and maybe losing a match. That wouldn't surprise me that much, but I think Lube will probably advance. I think the same about Trentino versus Piacenza. Like, I could see Piacenza taking a match there if they play, I don't know, they catch fire for a match. Bernardi figures out the right combination of guys, like just wins the lottery on that for a match and maybe wins one. But
Aaron Russell finally makes an appearance.
one can an American boy like myself can only hope. But what I do think is pretty spicy is Milano versus Modena, especially if Namir Abdelaziz is unable to play and he hasn't played for at least the last 2 matches. I don't know his prognosis, but he's had some nagging injury, and we've seen Yoandi Leal at opposite. And without Namir, they have not looked good at all. He's been their best player this year, especially as we've been digging into the stats since the end of the season. It's been even more alarming how important Namir has been to Modena's even like chances to beat good teams and be where they are in the standings. If Namir can't play, I would not be that shocked if Milano were to beat Modena in that quarterfinal.
Wow, I mean, it does leave him with a huge hole, but ultimately you're still playing against like Leal, Bruno, Angapeth, Daddy Stankovic. You know, like they still got guys out there. There's still a bunch of dogs.
But Milano matches up MVP. Milano matches up with them at every position except kind of at opposite. And like the only reason they don't match up well at opposite, they have Jean Patry, who I think should have been the Olympic MVP over Irvin Angapeth. The only reason why he's not a factor is because Porro can't set him. Like
you think they match up on the left side? Angapeth and Leal match up to Ishikawa and Jayski?
Not if Namir can't play, because then they move Leal to the right and they bring in like Van Garderen or some like second libero as their other left side, and he's a total non-factor. So if that happens, if they don't have Namir, then they move Leal to the right like they've been doing, then I do believe in Milano's outsides to match up head to head. They're great. They're great in the middle. I think Piano and Chinese are a better duo than Stankovic and Mazzone. I don't think Mazzone is having a very good year. And then
you're not wrong there. I definitely agree with that.
I think they match up well at libero. I think Rossini is having a terrible year, and then the only question is setter and opposite. So if Leal's your opposite, and like maybe you get Porro on a good day where he puts Patry in position to at least hit like 25% efficiency.
Man. Come on.
It's the only thing he can't do. Porro's having a good year. The only thing he can't do is set right side. And Milano definitely suffers from that. But Jeschke's been so good scoring out of system, like uncharacteristically so, at least from what I expected, that they've been able to beat some good teams. If Modena doesn't have Namir, I would not be surprised, and I might even pick Milano if Namir doesn't play in that series.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially with Milano, I think everyone was expecting Jayski to kind of play that second fiddle role and have Ishikawa play that P1 role. No. And I think that's what they were trying to do earlier in the season. Then once they switched and they let Jayski bang away, he's been having a great season for them. Let Ishikawa play that P2 role, which is what he's much better suited for. He passes great, he plays great defense, he hits great out of system. You know, let him work that P2 role. And you're right. I think Milano's a dangerous team, but it's going to take a pretty big implosion. But could you imagine from Modena's side if they can't even make it to that series against Perugia?
They don't even get the opportunity to play Perugia. That would be a huge storyline.
Yeah, that would be a huge storyline. You're not wrong. But hey, we're gonna have to see it. Like that's to me the question is like lose in this first round to Milano, which I don't think is going to happen, but it's definitely a possibility. Does Gianni keep his job, right? And I know that we've had Pedrini literally from, tell pretty good sources that, like there's no way, but at the beginning of the season, she did give that, that nod that like it's in Gianni's hands now. And it just seems like they save it and then they drop it again, and they save it, and they drop it again. So
they've done a lot of dropping it here lately. So yeah, they've got a little bit of pressure on them. But I mean, not having Namir, if that ends up being the case, that is a pretty good excuse, because that, again, like we brought it up on.
It is.
Sure, it is. We brought it up on the last couple shows. I can't remember when, but of those top 4 teams in Italy, Modena is by far the least deep.
Absolutely, but you still have other horses. They shouldn't be losing to anyone below them, like fifth or past.
I could totally see them losing to Milano, and I think Milano
I don't disagree.
Might just be good enough.
I could see them losing Milano, but I don't think they should. That's what I'm going to end.
No, I don't think they should. But so the Italian men's playoffs start this Saturday. Trentino Piacenza kicks off on Saturday, and the other 3 series kick off on Sunday, all live on volleyballworld.tv. So there will be one more match between Lube and Milano on Wednesday, I think, tomorrow. But that match completely doesn't matter. Lube will finish second no matter what. Milano 5th no matter what. So then they'll turn around and they'll start the playoffs on Saturday, then into Sunday is what we all live for. So Are you picking chalk, Everett? Are you picking Perugia, Lube, and Trentino and Modena to advance? Because I think I kind of want to shock the world. I think I'll pick Milano. Why not?
All right. Okay, fair enough. We do have a little bit of other SuperLega news, as it is official now that this will be the final run for Lube Civitanova and their star middle blocker, Robert Landry-Simon, as he is off to Piacenza next season. I mean, we already knew this, especially with the Discord and the connections that we have there. We knew this was already certain too, but now it's just out in the public. The big man is going to Piacenza, and it also looks like another one of the Discord's favorite players, Semeniuk, might be headed to Perugia to replace Matt Anderson.
Yeah, very possible.
Silly season is getting pretty silly in Italy, and things are shaping up to be pretty nice for next season.
Yeah, so Robert Landry-Simon returning to Piacenza, where I can't remember if that was the first club he played in overseas, but it was definitely where he kind of made his mark back when him and Luciano De Cecco were both there. Now, this is a previous era of the Piacenza regime that he played at before. The club actually folded for a couple of years, then came back into existence under completely different management. So different program, same city, basically the same identity. It'll be cool to see Simone go back home in a sense. And with Simone leaving, we know that Juan Terrena's headed to Asia, Lube's got some serious shoes to fill this offseason. I have no idea what they're going to do in the transfer market. They're going to have to make some kind of splash, maybe go get a Rok Mozic sort of character. People were talking about Semeniuk for a while, but now it's more likely that he ends up going to Perugia, like you said. So I don't know, but I don't want to focus on transfers that much yet, because we still got a season to play. Just to put it in the back of people's minds that a lot of those top teams next year and beyond will look pretty different.
I know you don't want to talk about transfers, but I do want to bring up one note, because we've had Namir, who had already declined to his option at Modena to potentially go to ZSP next season. Right, we saw that Semeniuk is rumored to go to Perugia because his contract to Belgorod next year is what's basically he was supposed to go to Russia to play for Belgorod. He's not. He's looking for others. So are we going to see that potentially with Namir, and maybe do we see him trying to find that option again and coming back to Modena?
Maybe
that's going to be an interesting thing to think about moving forward.
Yeah,
for sure.
Very possibly. Yeah, the situation in Russia is going to affect contracts as it goes into the offseason. I have no idea what's going to happen there, but yeah, it sounds like Semeniuk was like just a half a signature away from going to Belgorod next year, and now he is probably looking to go elsewhere, which is why he's being rumored to go to Perugia. So we'll get into that after the season's over and after some moves start to be made. But there was a lot more volleyball that happened last week, including the CEV Champions League. So the semifinals are set, at least when there are semifinals being played anyway. It was a crazy week last week. I think there were 3 matches of the Champions League last Wednesday, plus CEV Cup, Challenge Cup. There was just so much going on. It started off, we'll just do it chronologically. The one of them that was set up to actually have a little bit of drama was Vakif Bank versus Rzeszów on the women's side, because as you might remember, Rzeszów in Poland won the first leg of that series in 5. So Vakifbank had at home, so they have a massive home court advantage in Turkey. They had to win either in 3 or 4 to avoid a golden set and advance. And it got really, really interesting. Even though Vakifbank went up 2-0 pretty convincingly, Zhezhov stole the third. And then they had a very dramatic setup for the fourth set, because if Vakifbank won, they'd advance. If Zhezhov won, they'd guarantee at least a golden set. And it ended up being 25-23. And Gabi Guimaraes made one of the most unbelievable plays I've ever seen. She was in an off-blocker defense, like in position 4, got just lit up by a sharp cross shot, popped it up off the chest to like basically the service line, got an out-of-system ball and banged it through a seam to win the match in advance. Like that individual play was insane. I don't know if she won the MVP, but she definitely should have. 17 for 32 with only 2 errors was phenomenal. But again, credit to Zhezhov, like we gave them after they beat Vakifbank the first time. Huge amount of credit to Stefania Antiga's squad, but Vakifbank was just too good this time.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we called it, right? We said it was going to be a 3-0. It wasn't. It was a 3-1. Zhezhov made things interesting, but I really didn't see Vakifbank fall on this one. And you know what? It's going to be interesting moving forward, but yeah, didn't really see this one falling for the defending club world champions at this time.
Yep, and good thing too, because Vakifbank now advances on the women's side to set up an all Turkish semifinal against Fenerbahce, which is going to be extremely spicy. So there will be a Turkish versus an Italian team in the finals guaranteed. I cannot wait to watch that one, and we'll get to the other side of the women's in just a minute. Moving on to the men's, this was just chronological from Wednesday. This match is the one that happened next. Trentino traveling to Berlin. Trentino won the first match in that series at home, 3-0. All they had to do is win 2 sets. They go down 2-0. Berlin, to their huge credit, comes out at home and wins the first 2 sets and plays great. They were playing so well, 25-21, 25-22.
Yeah, but what happened to the third? That's what I want to know. I missed that one.
It was 6-0. It was an immediate service run. They went down 6-0. It was 8-2, and then Berlin pulled all the starters immediately. Like they tried to make a little pushback, they couldn't. They pulled all the starters. They tried to wipe it out of their memory, and that set up the fourth, which was kind of a do or die situation. Because if Trentino won that 4th set, it was over. If Berlin won that 4th set, it set up for either a golden set or just something crazy going on in the 5th. But Trentino ends up pulling away late in the 4th, and once they ended up winning that to take 2 sets, it was over. The 5th set was completely meaningless. So even though Berlin wins the match, Trentino advances. Alessandro Micheletto, not to mention just being unbelievable in this match. 5 aces to only 3 errors, by the way, plus 3 stuff blocks is absurd. But late in that 4th set, when his team needed him the most, when it was tight and they needed to pull away and win to advance, he had the most disgusting, like, wrist away serve right down the line in position 1 that I've ever seen. It was absolutely flawless for like a clean ace right on the line. It was filthy, and there was nothing that anybody could do about it. So I wanted to shout him out for that because it was so dope.
So if we're gonna talk about it, we need to show the clip.
I don't have the clip. I don't have the clip because we'll probably get, like, I don't know, complained at by the CEV, even though it was literally my voice over the game. But
yeah, all right.
Serve was gnarly. Trentino pulled away and won the 4th. They advanced to play Perugia in the semifinals.
Sick. What was the next matchup here?
This was the crazy one.
I mean, to be honest, this is the only matchup that we should be talking about. I don't think any of these other matchups matter. They were marginally exciting, but this was the big one, right? The fact that Giuseppe Weigel is the team that's moving on from this event is the biggest, and it should be the story that we should be leading off with, right? The fact that Lube Civitanova is losing 2 times in a row to a Polish team is absolutely astonishing.
It's crazy.
And the fact that it's against this JW team, like Stéphane Boyer wasn't there. They had to rely on Jan Hadrava, right? They had to rely on Thomas Fornal. Like it shouldn't have happened. Tony Uti is the Lube killers.
He is.
Right? Well, once again, 2 years in a row. Last year was Zaxa. This year with JW, and it's absolutely massive. The fact that we're going to have an all Polish matchup in the semifinals is humongous. And I think, you talked about this Lube team struggling earlier, and you're right. Like this is they are not looking good right now. And it's just like a few different things that are happening. But man, this is a huge blow to this Lube team. Allegedly, they're losing budget moving up forward to next year. So is this the dying breath of what has been almost a dynasty for Lube Civitanova?
Yeah,
because this is an absolutely massive loss, and it can't be understated. It can't be stated enough.
Yeah, one of the great club teams in volleyball history is slowly losing their finger grips on the cliff of elite status in European volleyball, and it's not looking good. Every week we have a new bone crushing Lube Civitanova loss to talk about, and yeah, I mean, the one silver lining for them here is that as Marlon Yant got stuff blocked by Jan Hadrava back into his face, right on his nose, making his nose bleed, Gian Lorenzo Blengini had literally no choice but to pull Yant out and insert for him a certain Osmani Juantorena. So we saw Juantorena play. He went 6 for 11 offensively, passed the ball reasonably well. He did have a swing, actually. You got to talk about this. He did have a swing to win the match in the third set, and he got stuff blocked. That was his only error.
You're not wrong. I mean, I completely forgot about that altogether.
So Lube went up 2-0 in this match. It was looking
match point.
I think they had 2 match points in the third to force a golden set. They let JW back into it, and then in the fourth there was this run of like 4, 5, 6 points in a row, mostly on the serve of Tomasz Fornal because he had 3 aces in a row, which was crazy. Ends up being like 21-16 in the fourth, and it's over at that point, like 25-19 the final, and that was it. Yeah. After JW got 2 sets on the board, it was over. So then they put the bench in the fifth. They ended up winning it. But the fact that Lube had 2 match points in the third to force a golden set, and they would have had all the momentum going into the golden set. They let that slip away. They let JW come back. JW goes on the run at home in the fourth, and Lube's tournament is over. It was a crazy turnaround. Crazy.
Yeah, it was absolutely massive. And you have to look at this Lube team and being like, what is happening? They got a 54 kill percentage, although 60% on the other side for JW. Obviously, the home crowd was a massive touch for the Polish side, and man, like I think that's going to be it for this Lube dynasty, as we know that they're going to be taking some hits for next year, and they're going to be losing some of the guys. They're going to be going a little bit younger, but yeah, right now they're just really missing that guy. Right? They have Robert Landy Simone. Right. He dropped 18 in this one.
10 for 14, 5 blocks, 3 aces.
Yeah, those are absolutely massive numbers, right? And Piacenza is going to be getting a gem because no matter Leon is still he's still up there at age, but he's still getting it done, right? So absolutely massive finish here for Lube Civitanova, for SW Weigel. They're moving on. Lube loses to a Polish team for the second year in a row, and man, it's going to make things interesting. We got an all-Italian semifinal on one side, we got an all-Polish semifinal on the other side. It's going to be Poland versus Italy, no matter what way you cut it down. But I mean, I think I have to stick with my number one prediction from before. It's got to be Perugia versus JW in the finals.
I mean, who are you to say that you predicted JW in the finals? You thought they were going to lose to Lube. Get out of here.
Oh, no, sorry. Perugia versus Zaxa. My apologies.
That's better.
I said the wrong thing.
So Perugia's still my favorite to win the tournament. I think even if Matt Anderson doesn't come back in time to play the first match or maybe both matches against Trentino, I still think they win that series. But I am having a very hard time figuring out how to pick the Polish semifinal because we've seen JW and Zaxa go at each other this year, and it's been pretty balanced. Like JW beat him in the Super Cup finals back in the beginning of the year. Zaxa,
that was in September.
Well, still,
when was the last time Zaxa lost to JW?
Zaxa schooled them in the Polish Cup finals, but that's totally before this JW team completely turned themselves around, and Zaxa's looked mortal since then. I mean, they lost to Lublin, and then they lost to Skra. So, I don't know how to pick this. And of the semifinals that are actually being played, so there's only 3, like we'll talk about in a second. I think this Polish men's semifinal has the most golden set potential.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think Trentino is going to be able to stand up to Perugia. Like, those two teams have played so many times this year, and as great as Trentino has done this season, and they've had a fantastic year for the roster that they had together. Right. A lot of young guys coming together. They're playing that 3 outside system. It looks great, but that team is really flatlined, whereas Perugia has just gotten better. And even without Matt Anderson, right, you still have Oleg Plotnitsky, who might be one of the most underrated players in the league this season.
Yeah,
and like
definitely.
if you look at some of his numbers, and I know he's playing against a lot of the lesser teams because he's coming in for Anderson, but Plotnitsky is looking good. I don't think you lose much not having Matt Anderson in there versus Oleg Plotnitsky.
I think he's the best third outside hitter in volleyball.
No. Oh, absolutely. No doubt about it. I think you're bang on with that, right? So I don't see Trentino. I think this is a 2-0 for Perugia, right? And maybe it's a 1-1 in the sense that Perugia wins 2 sets and Trentino comes back and wins in 5. Just
sure.
Just to keep things going. But you're right. I do think that the Polish semifinal does have the potential to go to the golden set. However, I still have my money on Zaxa. Yeah, they've looked mortal recently, but I think they still remember in their head that that Plus Liga finals loss to JW last season.
I agree.
You've got Tony Uti on the other side. You know that those guys are going to be wanting to beat him, and I mean the matchup just hasn't been close between those two teams recently. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a little spicy, but I'm still going with Zaxa all the way.
Yeah, so that gets going next week. The last thing we got to talk about in Champions League is Conegliano. Without that much stress or resistance, advancing past Monza, the
most disappointing series, I would
say. Very disappointing. I thought that Monza was going to put up way better of a fight than this. Like 25-19, the first wasn't close. Monza gets one on the board. Then Conegliano in the third, 25-16, not close at all. And that was it. All Conegliano had to do was take 2 sets. So the fourth set was totally inconsequential. Monza's numbers, not good at all. Magdalena Stisiak was terrible. 1 for 17 with 6 errors. Ouch.
Dana Retke was bad.
Jordan Larson, not very good. Like it was very, very, very disappointing. Conegliano, meanwhile, I mean, Egonu, 30 points in 4 sets. You got this woman she's just insane. Unbelievable. I can't believe she keeps just doing this all the time, but I kind of can because she's her.
Yeah. How can you not believe this is a normal day at the office for Paolo Egonu, and it's been that case for a few years now. For me, it just comes down to serve receive.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what it was. Only 15% excellent, like perfect passes by Monza.
Terrible.
On a team that is driven by the middle. And that was really what they were seeing when they had that short blip where they were really, really good and they beat Conegliano. They were really strong in the middle. They were setting it up for Danesi. They were setting it up for Retke, and just not able to do that anymore. 15% perfect passes. It's just not good enough, right? I mean, enough. Conegliano on the other side, not that much better, only 22%, but they have the roster to play that high ball offense, right? You can just go right side, and you can just go high ball to left side when you've got Kathleen Pummler and Miriam Sila. And it actually they probably prefer to that than playing in system, right? So ultimately, I think this one was the most disappointing, especially because both you and I were hyping this one up. Both you and I were looking at this big time and being like, yo, Monza could be the team, and Conegliano just comes back and they do what they do. They are who we thought they are.
They are who we thought they were. And now, what was very important about this matchup is that Conegliano is now directly to the finals. No semifinal on that side of the bracket because of Russian forfeits. Conegliano has 1 match left to defend their championship. And after everything they've been through this year, where it's been a bit of a roller coaster for the reigning champions for sure. It has not been nearly the smooth sailing we saw last year. They now have at least a month, if not more, just to focus on surviving in the Lega Volley Femminile and advancing in the playoffs before they have to focus on Champions League again, because there's such a massive break between the semis and the finals of Champions League. But
it just makes them more dangerous.
Totally, completely. Right?
It just makes them way more dangerous.
They bypass the semifinals completely. It's such a huge advantage.
2 less games, no travel. You get to hang out. Like they are massively in that. Looking at the board, on the chat board real quick, Joe coming in, Alexa Gray potentially signing with Conegliano. I haven't seen anything about that. But
that popped up.
Some interesting news.
That popped up yesterday. I think that's about as confirmed as you can get at this point in the year, which would be awesome news. So I assume that means that some of their other players will be moving out. Like you wouldn't keep Courtney, Plummer, Sela, and then add Alexa Gray. I would have to assume that one of those others would be on her way elsewhere. But it's very cool for a Canadian to step into who very well may be like the 2-time reigning champion of Europe. That's going to be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, hey, let's be honest. Alexa Gray has been like a top 5 scorer for the past 2
Oh yeah,
seasons.
she's been amazing.
She's been unreal. I mean, would have been a much better year for her had Jordan Poulter not got injured at Busto. So yeah, I think it's going to be great. Alexa Gray on the left side, and you've got Isabel Hawk on the right side. I think Conegliano is going to be a fun team to watch no matter what moving forward, and probably still a favorite in the Lega Volley Femminile.
All right, moving on to the rest of the CEV competition that we have to talk about, because there's more. I promise. We didn't even get to the end of it. It was just Champions League. This is CEV Cup that we can talk about. So last week we had Monza beating Tours on the men's side 3-0 in Italy. So they traveled to France. That match will be tomorrow to decide the CEV Cup final. And then last week we had. I've been trying to learn how to pronounce this team's name the last week or so. Edzajabasha is, I believe, how it's pronounced. It's very, very difficult. Tijana Boskovic, Majan Jenovic, like etc. One of the great teams in Europe, even though they're not playing Champions League. Edzajabasha taking on Stuttgart of Germany. They beat him in 4 last week, and sure enough, that match earlier was today. And Edzajabasha of Istanbul wins the CEV Cup on the women's side. I think Majan Jenovic was the MVP of the finals. Well deserved. I think they were kind of like the Zenit Kazan of the women's CEV Cup, where they were
absolutely
as good of a team as there was anywhere in Europe, and it probably would have been more interesting had they been able to play Champions League.
They were a Champions League quarterfinal team last year, right?
But they didn't do well enough in Turkey last year to make Champions League again. So it's nobody's.
Turkey's strong, right?
Yeah, well, it's no one's fault but their own for them to not be in Champions League. However, congratulations to them for winning the CEV Cup. It was never really in doubt. Today's match. In Germany, they won 3-1. Once they won 2 sets, it was over. So,
I think for me, the men's match final is going to be something spicy, especially from what we saw today in Challenge Finals. It is going to be big. Monza did take care of business at home against Toulouse last time, but we've seen what Toulouse do at home. They beat Skra at home. They beat Modena at home. And I think we could be in a very serious golden set territory with this one, especially with what we just saw with the Challenge Cup final, where we'll talk about in a second. But Narbonne just comes out of nowhere after getting slaughtered in Ankara last week. They come back to nowhere to win the Challenge Cup.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Well, because like we were just previewing this game, I think we're going to see the same thing in Toulouse, because we've seen that crowd. That crowd today at Narbonne was absolutely crazy. Was just, and there's something about that like French finals crowd that just gets the people going, right? And it was fun to watch. And I mean, the boys in pink, they took it home today, and I mean, you watched a bit more of the match than I did. But it seemed like it was a crazy one.
It was incredible. So Narbonne went to Ankara last week and lost 3-0. Like not
thumped,
not particularly close. They got pretty nicely destroyed by Graham Vigras and the boys. And again, Ankara is the best team in the Turkish men's league this year. I think this is their first loss of the year, because I know they're undefeated domestically, and I would be surprised if they lost in like, I don't know, Turkish Cup or anything else like that. So for Narbonne to do this, they turn around at home today. They had to win 3-0 or 3-1 to force golden set. They win 3-1. And then in the golden set at 21-19, 21-19, we finally get a golden set this year in like major CEV competition. I'm like, maybe there were a couple like earlier in Challenge Cup, but they weren't broadcast. We didn't really hear that much about them. This was what it was all about, dude. 21-19 in the golden set with that crowd was absolutely insane. Both teams had so many match points, so many championship points. It was so back and forth. The entire match was almost 3 hours long. It was unbelievably electric, and Narbonne coming out of absolutely nowhere. You see Martin Ramos there in the photo. Nicolas Uriarte was the MVP of the match, and I believe MVP of the tournament. Just incredibly electric. Yeah. And I totally agree with you that we could very well see the exact same thing for Tours and CEV Cup. That's tomorrow. So definitely tune into Monza at Tours tomorrow. Somehow
is that one on YouTube, or is that one on Eurovolley.tv?
I think it's just on Eurovolley.tv. So pick up that subscription. But
yeah, you'll have to check that out. I mean, Narbonne, it's crazy coming out of fourth place out of the LNV, right? Crazy. It just goes to show how how steady the LNV is and how from top to bottom, such a good league. The only team that isn't good in the LNV is Cons because, they're garbage.
Well,
We're not going to talk
we've
about them.
talked
But
a lot
yeah,
about them.
but like if you're looking at like seventh place is Nice, and that's Bruno Lima and the boys,
Yeah,
right? Like I honestly think the LNV might be one of the most slept on leagues in
it
all
is
of
slept
European
on.
in all of European
We
volleyball,
don't have
right?
nearly as many Americans or Canadians there this year as normal
Yeah,
years, so I don't think I or you have been paying as much attention to France as we normally would have. But
no,
it is a slept on league, and now with Narbonne winning this and Tours with a pretty legitimate chance in CEV Cup tomorrow, like if they win both of those tournaments, if a French team wins both of those tournaments, that makes quite the statement. Now all they would have to do is get somebody at the top, like
Olympic
legit.
champs.
Well, they've got that obviously, but I mean for the LNV, like for the club scene, they would need to get a team that can actually make some noise in Champions League. And I don't know. I think they're several steps away from that. But as far as like the
But
grand,
I don't know
grand
if they,
scheme of
they
European
have one that
volleyball,
needs to make noise. But I think they just have to have one that's more competitive. Like having Cons in there, who's sitting at the
not
bottom of the
competitive.
league with only 2 wins this season, is a joke.
Well, that's my
Like it would have been
justification for the Bundesliga, because I think the LNV top to bottom is better than the Bundesliga, but the Bundesliga has
absolutely.
Berlin, and Berlin made legitimate noise in Champions League. Like they played extremely well and were competitive in the quarterfinals. Like France is several steps away from having a team as good as Berlin. That's my comparison right now.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Speaking of French volleyball, I think this is a good segue here, is because we have a surprising move coming out of the French camp. As we see Bernardino, the Brazilian legend, who's stepping away, hasn't even spent he took over the team in the fall before the World Championships.
It was Eurovolley. That was it. That was the only tournament he coached.
And that's it. And now he is gone, heading back to Brazil. You and I, and it seems like the whole volleyball world is surprised about this one.
Oh yeah, we're shocked by this. I mean, I was shocked when the news came out that he was going there in the first place. So after Laurent Tilly wins Olympic gold last year, we knew that he was stepping down. We knew that Bernardino was coming in, but I was so surprised that this is Bernardo Rezende we're talking about, by the way, Brazilian legend, Bruno's father, won Olympic gold with Brazil. I was surprised that after he retired from the Brazilian team that he was even willing to coach anywhere else, much less like across the pond in Europe. Like I don't really understand what he had left to prove or why it was that he wanted to do that in the first place. So he takes Tilly's place and comes in and coaches the Frenchman at Eurovolley. Like we were talking about at the time before we even started this show, France was playing with house money in that tournament. They had no pressure. They had just won the Olympics. Nobody cared. They lose to the Czech Republic in like the eighth finals. Nobody cared. Turns out that's literally Bernardino's only tournament coaching for them, because now he steps down, I believe, citing personal reasons or family reasons, and he's going to stay in Brazil. And now the French men's team is in a very difficult spot of trying to find a head coach at the last minute in a world championship year.
Yeah, especially at this point in the season too. Like we've already seen Heinen, which I mean, if I was the director of a country, I would never hire Heinen. No. But he's not gone. He's not around because he's gone to the German women. So it's really coming down to the question of who's available to run this team.
I think Stefan Antiga is the clear number one pick. I don't think that he's coaching any one national team right now. He's just coaching Rzeszów in the women's Polish club league.
Yeah, you're not right. I think Stefan Antiga is an obvious one, but I also think like Glenn Hoag's name might be in that list. I mean, because Glenn Hoag originally started, like he was back in the 90s, he was the assistant coach of the French national team, coached at Paris because he played there as well. He has a lot of connections to the French volleyball in general. I mean, we saw a longtime Canadian men's national team assistant coach, Vincent Pichette, who spent time with the French national team as well too. So I kind of think that, and like Glenn Hoag is that kind of volleyball nut, right? Like he spent all this time building the Canadian volleyball program, right? Like 15 years. He's still coaching at Arcus. I'm sure France would be paying him better than Canada was. So I could 100% see Glenn being like, you know what? I'm going to go coach France for a little bit. Why not? Go to another World Championships. And you know what? If you can, go for it. Go get that bag. Go get that bag, man. Because it may be a stretch, but I could absolutely see it happening.
Wow. You could see him unretiring twice.
but he didn't necessarily retire. He just retired from the Canadians men's national team.
Twice.
He's still out there coaching.
He retired from the national
he's
team
still
twice.
out there coaching. Like he's still at Arcas this season, right? Like he's still in Turkey.
I know.
And I mean, I'm not going to pretend I'm best friends with the man, but after my time spent with the national team, I know him pretty decently, and and I think he's just that type of volleyball nut that like even when he wasn't with the team, he was still showing up to things. Like I still remember back in 2013, in between World League weekends, he was at the Canada games watching it. Albeit Nick was playing for Team Quebec at the time, so there is about that. But yeah, man, I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if we saw Granddaddy Hogue in the Tricolore.
Wow.
I wouldn't be surprised. Him or Antigua, right? I think the two former Canadian coaches are the obvious choices to go.
It would be crazy. It would be truly crazy for them to not hire Antigua. It would be crazy for them to not do that. So
if they hired Antigua, we might see
another French dynasty, dude. It couldn't be a more perfect fit. I think France might get really lucky by the fact that it's been a couple years since Antigua's coached national team. Now it might be the time for him to get back into it, for his native country, finally coach for France after having been in Poland for easily 10 years now since he last played for the French national team. So that's my pick for it, but you may have talked me into at least the possibility of seeing Glenn Hogue do it. So I'm interested to follow that.
If Antigua jumps on that French national team, and when you think about like France, how good they are right now, Italy coming up the way they are right now, we're switching a different generation in Polish volleyball. Like we might see domination from those three teams, especially since Russia's completely out of the picture right now. Europe could be a battleground between those three teams moving forward.
It could. So very curious to see how that follows up with. So before we get to the pools of the Women's World Championships, Everett, let the people know about BetUS once again, because it's important that everybody knows the best possible place to bet on sports and volleyball in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a reason that they're called America's favorite sports book. They've been around since 1994, fighting that good fight.
That's when I was born. I was born in 1994.
1994. I was 2 years old then, so I got you a little bit there. I'm older than both you and BetUS, but yes, America's favorite sports book since 1994. They got it all. We had a crazy weekend of men's college basketball. Is Purdue still in?
We are, and now we're playing the 15th seeded St. Peter's on Friday night. So,
okay. So you guys are going down to the fairy tale.
Everyone will be rooting against Purdue. But yeah, if you want to bet on that, or if you want to bet on volley, or if you want to bet on anything else, whether you're in the U.S. or not, you can be literally anywhere.
Thailand, anywhere. Switzerland, whatever it is,
wherever betting's legal.
Yeah, absolutely. Just head down to the bottom of into the show notes of this show. Click on the link. It will take you to BetUS. Then use the code Volley125 for 125% deposit bonus. You deposit $100 and you're going to end up having $225. It's literally free money. And then you get to bet on it, make yourself some more money. And it's great. If you don't know what betting is like, join the Discord. We've got a whole betting section. Johnny Boy is an absolute mastermind, especially on the beach side. He puts out all of his spreads every single day, and we've got a great betting community there that can get you going. So make sure to check that out. Volley125 over on BetUS. And you know what I'm excited to be betting on is the Women's Championships come the fall in Netherlands and Poland, as we had the drawing of the lots last week. And I'm going to be the first one to say it. Canada got absolutely screwed in this one. Pool C is the pool of death. Pool B is pretty gnarly too. But man, some weird pool compositions in this one.
I've never understood the whole drawing of lots thing that like European sports are obsessed with, and like the FIVB and CEV really like to just draw these lots, and it always ends up being extremely imbalanced. Sure enough, Pool C, United States and Serbia, like reigning Olympic champions, 2-time reigning world champions. Germany's good, Bulgaria is good, and then you have Canada having to at least not like try to get top 4 in that pool to make it out.
But even Kazakhstan's good.
Kazakhstan's by far the best of the 6th seeded teams, I think. Croatia's okay.
Yeah. But, no, like looking at Croatia and
Kazakhstan's way better than Kenya. They're better than Cameroon. I cannot believe there are 2 African teams in Pool A.
That Pool A is ridiculous. You get 2 African teams and Puerto Rico.
Joke.
Like, that's I don't know how that's happening. Like, what's going on
Yeah,
here?
that's insane. There's got to be some, if you're going to draw lots, there's got to be some better protection that you can have against something like that. Like I mean, I understand the FIVB wants to promote African volleyball. We talked about Tunisia stepping into men's VNL this summer, but the fact of
It's
the
going to
matter
be
is
a huge story.
their teams just aren't good. Their
Yeah.
teams just aren't good. You can't keep putting them into these positions, just get destroyed in major international competitions. And the fact that there are 2 African teams in Pool A destroys the rest of the pools. It's nuts.
Absolutely. I mean, hey, I think if you look at it, like, honestly, I think Kazakhstan's better than Puerto Rico, Cameroon, or Kenya.
Very possibly.
Like, I'm like, I'm not trying to, BS with that one. You know that the FIVB is going to blast it once Cameroon or Kenya gets that win. It's like, first win for an African team at the World Championships.
Oh my God, I can see it now.
Asterix, it could have happened in Africa itself. And I mean, hey, I'm very much for promoting the game in Africa. I think it's going to be a great place. Like, obviously, I don't know very, very many women's players who have come from, the original continent, but we're starting to see a few from the men's side. Egypt's always been a pretty strong team over the years, but hey, let's not just gift them some wins at the World Championships at the dispense of other teams. Like, Canada is in a really nice spot right now with the way that we're growing our national team. And of course, we've got Alexa Gray doing amazing things, and Kier Van Rijk, who just signed in for another season at THY after leading them to scoring top 10 score in the Turkish league. Like, there's things happening for Canadian volleyball. And it feels like a tough one. It almost very much feels like the World Championships back in 2010, where Canada failed to make it out of the pool after beating Serbia but losing to Germany on the men's side. So it's gonna be a tough one. I think it's Germany, Bulgaria, Kazakhstan are all winnable games for us. Maybe take a run at Serbia and USA, but man, this pool composition is interesting for sure.
It's interesting. And of course, just like we talked about all of last year with leading up to the Olympics, how teams are going to manage their rosters in VNL and get the starters some touches versus giving people rest and getting new pieces in. It'll be very much the same conversation this year once national team season starts and both the men and the women are working through VNL and up to World Championships. So I'm excited for national team season. I'm excited for it to be pretty much entirely back to normal. I think really the only asterisk will be that Russia won't be a part of anything this year, but there will be international travel, there will be crowds, so that's cool. And it's never too early to break down something like the Women's World Championship pools. I mean, Pool C, obviously, it just looks impossible, but Pool B, you get Poland versus Turkey again. That should be becoming quite the rivalry the last couple of years, and
especially with Volej coming back to Poland too. Like, I think that's going to make a big difference for the red and white over there, or the white and red, let's say.
Yeah, Pool D is. I think it's clearly Brazil's to lose. I don't think Japan's at that level. I don't know if Zhu Ting is going to be healthy enough to play. So without her, China's pretty much has no chance. So it's clearly Pool C as the most competitive one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be a bloodbath. It'll be fun. We haven't had very many Canada versus USA matchups that means something. So it's going to be fun.
Not on the women's side. It's been almost none, really.
So it's going to be fun to see our two countries go at each other. But yeah, overall, interesting drawing of the lots. Happening in Netherlands and Poland in the fall. I can't wait for it. I love World Championship season. It's going to be great.
Great tournament.
It's going to be awesome.
Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, is something that I'm very excited to go through because I've got a lot of learning to do on this subject.
Let's go.
Let's go. Finally. I've been waiting to watch like a legitimate U Sports Championship tournament literally since 2019 because that was the last time it was played. So 2020 obviously canceled mid-season. 2021 there was no season. And now after the conference or provincial tournaments have wrapped up this past weekend in men's U Sports
conference.
Is conference?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I mean, there's only one. Only the OUA is within strictly to one
province.
One province. The RCQ is multiple because it's Quebec and the Maritimes.
Okay.
Obviously, the Canada West. You've got BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. For any of our international fans who are watching. But I mean, hey, if anyone knows me, this is my bread and butter. I'm very sad. I'm very sad that I won't be heading out this year. Won't be able to afford it. I mean, if any kind sponsors want to fork up some airfare and accommodations for me to head out, that would be fantastic. But unfortunately, I won't be there, so I'll be able to watch it from afar. First of all, for all our Canadian fans, you can check it out at cbcsports.ca, where you watch all of our other games. International fans, if you've ever heard of a VPN, I heard that could be very useful since the games are going to be free. They're just going to be straight up free on CBC Sports. So if you act like you're from Canada, you're going to be able to watch. And
there you go.
The more, the merrier. But yeah, let's break this down. This past weekend's conference tournaments went like this. We're going to start on the East Coast with the RSEQ, and one of the biggest upsets, one of the biggest results we've seen in a long time. The Sherbrooke Vert et Or, that is the green and gold for our non-French speaking friends, are headed to nationals after taking the RSEQ for the first time since 1997, right? It hasn't happened since the 1900s that Sherbrooke has won the RSEQ. So I watched it. They played it at home against a very, very good Montreal team. And you know what? I thought Montreal was going to be going, it's for years and years it was Laval, then it was Montreal's a little bit, and I think right now the RSEQ is just blasted wide open. I think you got 5 quality teams over there, and very excited for that Sherbrooke program and the Sherbrooke boys over there to get that berth. If you move one province over from the RSEQ to the OUA and Ontario, sitting at number 2, the McMaster Marauders are once again at the top of the OUA.
Undefeated. Only undefeated team in the field.
Only undefeated team in the field. They took 2 years off, having lost to Queens back in 2020 because we did have a conference tournament. We just didn't have a national tournament back then. They lost to Queens in 2020, came third that year. Lost to Queens in 2019, came second that year. But other than that, they were on like an 8-9. I think it was an 8 or 9 year win streak. But the McMaster Marauders are headed back to the nationals and leading Ontario. It's going to be good. Now, headed over to the Canada West, we had the Trinity Western Spartans take down. No surprise. And let's be honest, like if you were watching it, we had a few in the Discord who were watching it, and they just absolutely dominated all the way through. So here's what the bracket is looking like. In that number 1 spot, we have Trinity Western. They're going to be taking on the host Manitoba Bisons. I think Manitoba had a decent season this year. They were in the toughest conference because within the Canada West, they split the conferences up into 3 because of COVID to limit travel. So they were in the toughest conference in the Plains with the Manitoba and Saskatchewan teams. They have no chance against Trinity Western. No offense to Manitoba. I like your guys' team. No chance.
None.
Looking on that same side of the bracket, the OUA finalists, and I mean, hey, this is a team that had set point in the 4th. They were looking to push it to a 5th. I think this Toronto team is really, really talented. They got Zane Grossinger, who came in from Queens last year. They got Mitchell Newart, who came in from Queens as well. They've got a few other guys. Ivan Falardo, he's a stud on that Toronto team. They're going to be going up against the RSEQ champions. I think this matchup is going to be one of the best matchups we have in the first round. I think it did that upper half of the bracket with McMaster versus Calgary. I think it's going to be interesting, but I still think Mac's going to be able to take that, and Trinity is going to walk all over Manitoba. But this one, I think it's like there's something about Quebec teams. They play hard defense. They're just another level of passionate that English-speaking teams just don't understand. And we've seen OUA teams be upset by them before. So I think that this Toronto versus Sherbrooke matchup is going to be a spicy one. I think the other spicy matchup is going to be between the OUA bronze medalists, the Queens Gales, the 2-time defending champions who defeated Brock in the bronze medal match at home over the weekend, against the Canada West runners-up in the Alberta Golden Bears. Now, I think I like this Alberta team quite a bit. They challenged Trinity, and that was without one of their best hitters in Braden Friesen out there. They had Cam Kern, who Brock Davidoff calls his volleyball player, because this is a guy who is technically a setter on the roster, has played libero, and was one of their starting left sides over the weekend. So I think Isaac Heslinga is arguably, maybe not the rookie of the year, because actually, real quick, shout out to Discord member Philip Lauder, who was the official rookie of the year
awesome.
in the Canada West for Brandon.
Big
I actually thought that Brandon was going to have a pretty good shot. They unfortunately lost to Calgary. I mean, fortunately for Calgary, Calgary run, but Brandon fell. So big shout out to Discord member Philip Lauder for winning that. He's a first year coming out of Frankfurt, Germany, had played for the United Volleys, then coming over to U Sports. But yeah, Alberta's team is looking dangerous. I'm going to call it right now. I don't think that I don't think the East Coast teams are nearly as good as the West Coast teams right now.
Okay.
Because of all of the lockdowns we've had here on the East Coast, these teams have not trained consistently as much as the West Coast teams. They haven't had the consistency of competition as the West Coast teams. So I think that we're going to see, I think it's actually going to affect especially the Ontario and Quebec teams and the East Coast teams a little bit more than we're seeing our West Coast teams. So right now I'm fully expecting to have an Alberta versus Trinity Western final, because both those teams are looking real good.
Oh, so you're going to pick Alberta over Mac in the second round?
Unfortunately, right now, yes. And I mean, hey, this is
that pick.
This is nothing against McMaster. And I mean, if you're from the Canada West, there might be a few people whose jaws are hitting the floor right now as I'm picking the Canada West over OUA, and that's very unlike me, right? But yeah, just watching how good, like Jordan Canham on the right side, like Rob, you're gonna have to get a VPN. You're gonna have to watch with us.
I'm planning on it.
Like we'll jump on the chat and we'll get but like there's some guys like Billy Johnson in the middle. I think it was a crying shame that he's only second team all Canada West, because that dude is a difference maker in the middle. I do think that McMaster has some really good pieces. Sam Cooper is awesome. Robbie Hasegawa, I mean, I was his first volleyball coach, so I gotta love him.
That's awesome.
Matus Wadlarski, big guy on the right side, is a former Ottawa Maverick, played on the same team as the aforementioned Jordan Canham as well. So there's I have a lot of love for that McMaster team. Everyone knows that me and Dave Preston are boys at Madawaska, even though he won't smile at me during game times. Outside of the season, he and I can have a good time together, but in the season, he doesn't crack a smile. But yeah, I just don't see it. It's going to be a really good game. I think Alberta has the toughest route to the finals for sure to get there. Like they're going to have to beat Queens, and that Queens team is plucky. They don't have the horses that they have in the past couple of years. Of course, Zane Grossinger now plays for Toronto. Zach Hutchison has moved on. Mitchell Newert isn't there, but I really believe in what Gabe DeGroot is building with that Queens program. So, man, I'm just excited. I'm just fully excited about this going on. It's been so long. It's been since 2019. At Laval that we've had a U Sports National Championship. This one is also going to be a special one because it's going to be the last time that Ben Joe coaches for Trinity Western.
I wanted to bring that up. Let me stop you by going over a couple of things and asking a couple of questions, because that was quite the stream of consciousness just now.
Sorry about that. I'm a little excited, if you can't tell.
That was incredible. I loved that so much. So thing number one is the quarterfinals are Friday, the semifinals are Saturday, and the finals are Sunday. It's all in Manitoba. It's all just one match series. So that's the format. I think the finals are at like 4 p.m. Central on Sunday. Yeah, I think. And yeah, like Everett said, CBC, and you can VPN to Canada and watch that for free, which I will definitely be doing. Join the Discord, by the way. We'll help you out if you're trying to watch it from somewhere else in the world. My question is, Trinity Western or the field? Because everybody, but everyone's been following along all year. Like Trinity Western has the one loss. I think they played their entire bench and lost a match in 5. And they came down to the States, to California earlier in the year, destroyed all the good teams in the NCAA, went back up north and have been dominant ever since. They run this really crazy lineup thing where Derek Epps sets and then plays some middle. Like Matthias Elser plays outside and then sets for half the rotations, and Brody Hofer plays both pins. And I'm very confused by it. It's a really wacky, it's basically like Benjo and the boys are just showing off how versatile they are, and they can play this weird rotation and still destroy everybody. My question is not, is Trinity Western going to win? Because I think they are. Does a team push them to the point at which they revert to a more traditional offensive lineup set, I guess?
No, because that's the lineup that they've been running with, and they don't have a traditional right side. The only one that they could be going to potentially would be Henry Rempel. Maybe you're going to want to bring in like Izzy Olfert to play on the left side, opposite of Elser. But yeah, they just don't have a traditional right side to fit into that spot. And let me tell you, that has never stopped them in the past. I mean, if you look back to 2016, where Ryan Sclater defeated a monstrous team in Stephen Marr and McMaster at home at McMaster, they had a flu-ridden Scott Ploktis on the right side, who I think got like 3 sets in the semifinal. Right. And they were just giving everything to Sclater and giving everything to Blake Shearhorn as well, who had a little bit of a stint on the national team as well. So that's one of the things that I characterize the most about Ben Josephson teams. And I've been watching them now for literally a decade. The first time I watched them was at Queens in 2012 with that legendary team that was Rudy Verhoof, Stephen Marshall, like the list goes on and on. Van Berkel, Dan Jansen, Van Dorn, the guys who are the national team now. But Ben Josephson is incredibly good at building a system around the team that he actually has. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what you're seeing with this team right here. I think the fact that Matthias Elser is probably arguably the second best setter in Canada right now. It's between him and Golden Bear setter Max Elgert, in my opinion. And the fact that he's banging the balls on both pins the way he does is absolutely phenomenal.
I love it.
Jackson Haum, Jordan Schnitzer down the middle, like they just play an interesting style of volleyball, and it's pure volleyball. Like the guys that they have everywhere are just volleyball players, like through and through, and it's so classic. So no, I don't think that they revert from this roster at all whatsoever. We might get to see Hank Rempel come in on the right side a little bit for them, but you know what? I wouldn't be surprised that. I think that I think I'm going to pick Toronto to go over Sherbrooke. No offense to Varia, but I think very highly of this Toronto team. And I have a lot of respect for what John Barrett and, that program has been building over the past few years. Toronto was a dumpster fire a few years ago and has really picked things up. They no longer lose in 5 all the time, which is their MO before. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Toronto take a set from Trinity. And ultimately, I think that they might consider that a win, maybe a few months down the road, not right off the bat, of course. But I could definitely see Alberta taking it to Trinity in the finals.
They took a set from him in the Canada West finals, didn't they?
Yep.
That was a pretty tight 1-4 at Trinity Western. So
they did. It was a back and forth. It kind of looked like Alberta was going to force a fifth, but then Trinity just kind of started running with it. But let's see if Braden Friesen is healthy, and you've got Friesen and Heslinga on the outside, on the left side, and you've got Canham on the right side. I think Max Elger as the setter, who's the 5th year, and this is going to be his last tournament, has looked better than ever. I mean, he was ripping aces last weekend. I think he had 4 in the second. Like by the second set, he had 4 aces, which was something crazy. They're going to be able to do some damage, but ultimately, like with this going to be Benjo's last tournament as a Spartan, how they all feel that 2020 championship was ripped away from them by not having it,
which it was,
which it absolutely was.
Got an argument there.
And you've got that team with Lepke and Jake Kern and Pierzashenko and all those boys that didn't get the chance to play. Like Trinity was everything that they've done this season was building up to this moment now, and that's probably what we're going to see. We're going to see another Trinity championship, and it is going to be one final book and chapter in what was arguably one of the greatest stints of university volleyball in the Canadian volleyball history, and ever. Up there with the great Alberta teams of the 2000s. And it's funny because I really want it to come to Alberta and Trinity just because that has been the showdown for so many years. And ultimately, like I remember hearing Ben Josephson talk back in 2012, or maybe it was even 2011. He was talking about, he goes, we built our system to beat Alberta. Alberta is the best team in the country. They have been the best team in the country. They continue to be the best team in the country. So we built our system to beat Alberta. And so I think it would just be so poetic that this is the way it finishes before Benjo passes off the torch to Schreimer and to Ben Ball.
I'm so excited to watch this. American fans, by the way, if you don't believe me when I say that Trinity Western is way better than every team in the NCAA right now, you without question, you'd better watch this tournament and you will see. The it's crazy. Their play style, like we were just talking about, with the it's literally positionless volleyball. They have a guy that sets for like 4 rotations and then plays middle. Like, and then a guy who sets and plays outside. Like, get real. Nobody does that. Nobody can get away with doing that and being championship caliber. But this team can, and it's electric. And they are so much better than every team in the NCAA, which I believe the NCAA is having kind of a down year this year. It's not even close, and I'm really excited to watch this. I wish that we could get like a true like in form, like in season Canada champion versus USA champion matchup.
Man, what I would give.
That would be pretty gnarly. That there would be lots of bragging rights on the line for that. I don't think we're going to see it, but
it would be impossible, right? Because the NCAA doesn't. NCAA men's ends in like May. Like our school year is already done. Like, guys are moving on and stuff like that. But man, could you not imagine just like even like a 1 game, maybe a 2 game series, kind of like a Champions League. A Champions League, like home and home between like the 2 top teams, like that would be something.
I would love it.
Else.
Play it in Vancouver, or play it in Seattle, or somewhere kind of close, and I would love it.
I would just do like a straight up home and home, right? If it's Long Beach and Trinity, you do 1 Langley events, 1 at the Pyramid. Just do a straight up. You have a potential.
Gym gets to choose the volleyball too, so you get like 1 Mikasa,
1 of the Molten, and 1 of the
would be wild.
Oh my god, that would be nuts. That would be nuts. And you probably like it would have to go to a golden set as well, probably.
That'd be
like,
so cool.
That would be a lot of fun, but unfortunately, it's undoable. I mean, I think it would be most fun for Canadians because men's volleyball is the only game that we play at par with at the NCAA level.
Absolutely.
Right? In any other sport, like if you look down, like men's hockey, obviously, like it's men's hockey is as great as it is in Canada. It's all of like the washed up junior players.
Because if you're a junior, a great junior player in Canada will either go to the league or they'll go to the NCAA to play hockey, right?
Yeah, exactly. They either go to junior, like play in the CHL, and from there you can either go to, go play pro, or you're going to kind of go. They pay for your education, so a lot of them just end up going to play into U Sports, or you're either going junior or you're going to NCAA, and those are your main 2 paths. So even like basketball, all of our best guys go to the NCAA. Soccer,
sure.
Women's volleyball, track and field, swimming, like you name it. Men's volleyball is the only one that we can go at par, so it would be great for us, but unfortunately, it's just not going to happen. Also, Philip, big shout out once again for winning Canada West Rookie of the Year. He's probably going to win U Sports Rookie of the Year as well at the awards banquet on Wednesday or Thursday. So big shout out to him. He's on the chat board right now.
Yeah, I see him. Yeah, Phil, congrats again, dude. It's cool having you in the Discord. So speaking of the Discord, jump in there. Links in the description. Make sure you know where to watch all the matches that are going on. So we'll definitely be popping off this weekend about U Sports, and then about Champions League next week, and Italian playoffs getting underway. So there's no better time to get in with a group chat of people from literally all over the world who are just talking about volleyball 24/7. So join that chat, and if you want to get engaged with it even more, hit up BetUS and use the code VOLLEY125.
Awesome. Daniel Manili just jumped in to the chat and said Canada and then retracted it. So we'll have to message him later on the Discord to see what he's talking about.
I wonder if Dan's had some beers this evening. Sure hope so.
Maybe. I did meet up with him earlier. So
hey Dan, love you, buddy.
All right. Is that it? That was a long one.
I think that's the show, boys and girls. Thanks very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to Volleyball Source. Join the Discord. We'll be back next Tuesday as always, and enjoy the U Sports Championships this weekend.
All right. Peace.